Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Searchcast. Today with me is my friend Jim Liberi, a professional SEO consultant, a lifetime golfer, a fellow crypto bro, and an SEO manager at AdLeverage, a marketing agency based out of Los Angeles. Thanks for coming on, Jim.
Thank you for having me, Shane. I look forward to talking with this. It's going to be a good time.
I look forward to it all the same. First question that I ask everybody, icebreaker question. Who would make a great SEO and why when it comes to your favorite TV character, book character, etc.?
I was happy that we could do this in private for me to test run this, and the one I've come up with is Columbo. I got a good response when I put that one forth, and I felt like he had a great attention to detail, and he was always asking that follow up question. So it really helps when you're talking with clients to ask them questions. He would be really good at that, and I try to take that model into practice. How about you? Which was your pick?
I go back and forth. I think Michael Scott would be a bad SEO, but I feel like he could sell SEO really well. He might not put
Uh,
his teammates in the best position to succeed. He might guarantee some timelines that are unreasonable, but I feel like he would have fun, talking to clients, winning their business, and then kind of just washing his hands of it. So that'd be mine.
right. I could see that exact scenario playing out.
So I know, you're a lifelong golfer. You actually were a golf coach for a while, which I'm jealous of.
Uh,
Do you see any similarities between perfecting the golf swing and SEO strategies?
I could tell you this: since I've been doing SEO, my golf swing is not as good as it used to be. I'm very sad.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's part of the process. You have to spend your time doing things that move you forward. And while I would love to move forward with golf, there's I was looking at swing speeds just as a side. Professional golfers, their swing speed, say with a driver, 150 plus. If you're really good. I'm not there. I'm like 118. So there's a distinct gap there, which I felt like I was not going to hit. But uh, SEO afforded me an opportunity to live off something other than athletic skill, which I greatly appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I use golf as an analogy for SEO a lot of times because it's a game of patience, right?
Yeah.
And same with SEO, right? It is definitely a marathon sport, and if you want to see success, you need to be in there every day, tweaking on little things, right? So if it's golf, it's your short game, it's your tee shots, but it's also hitting off of interesting lies and perfecting putting, which is impossible to do. And SEO is similar, right? Yeah, everyone has a technical audits and keyword research, but it's what really moves the needle is doing all those little things every single day to add up to a really great long term plan. So I think golf and SEO are a great analogy, and they have a lot of parallel paths. So it's fun talking to a fellow golfer and SEO about that. I'm sure we can kind of go back to that as the conversation progresses. But walk us through your career path. How long have you been doing SEO? How did you get into it? What were you doing before?
Yeah, thank you. It's funny you mentioned that. Part of that was, I graduated with a degree in English, which set a good path, I felt like. And I really stumbled into that because I was always working in golf. The last position I had, I was lucky to work at PGA National. And I finally worked my way up to the golf shop and started giving the lessons a little bit. And it was fun. But, after graduating in 2003, started in real estate, which was horrible. And
Bad time to get into real estate.
didn't like that. Yeah, it's that too. I started working in tech because I just liked doing it. After that, founded my own company in 2006, Praxis Technologies, and mostly hardware to start because I had a friend who was in the business. They were doing technical IT work in Philadelphia area, and then I got into websites because my family has a biscotti company and they needed a website. And that was how I started building websites. So Praxis Technologies quickly became a website development company after I basically trialed and errored my way through every possible WordPress platform process to get them an e-commerce site that was viable and actually ranking in search engine ranking. So I dove in head first with the family business website, which helped me progress in SEO. It was a perfect way to start because stakes were high and you have to go and try and make that happen.
So 2006, that's a long time, right? I've been doing this for 13 years, but you have
Yeah.
a lot more experience than I have. Remember back when I first started,
Uh,
resources were limited, but taking back to 2006, like how did you learn SEO? What kind of resources did you do? How did you get your feet wet?
um, I I was lucky to work with people who needed the service specifically, and they were looking for somebody to fill it. So once I had Praxis Technologies, I would just say yes to every project, whatever it was, and I'd go find a way to either do it myself, or I was lucky in Philadelphia. I had a good network, so I knew I could always find somebody to help fill a gap. And Praxis Technologies became like a way for me to make money for myself and bring friends in whenever I could to do design, do development if I needed help early on. Um, you know, Streaming video, making membership sites, making e-commerce sites. The best advice I can say is get a shared server for $20 from a managed, shared server account company and start building every possible WordPress website you can from affiliate. Set your feet, get some affiliate experience, get some CRO experience from that. Because you can always present a product, but there's thousands of other people doing the same affiliate product, so you have to figure out how to drive those clicks through. A little bit of color theory, if you can figure, reds and greens, the short and sweet of it. Always make those buttons stand out from the rest of the page, even though it looks kind of ugly. Um, make squeeze pages, make specific landing pages, whatever you can do to just, and everything's free with WordPress, and that's the beauty of it. You can start with a basic theme and build your way up, and that's really a nice way to start because then you don't have the bloat that I'll admit that we have at times with page builders.
Right.
The more you can avoid plugins to do what you need to do and just strip it down to an SEO plugin, your basic theme, and the latest WordPress, and maybe a security plugin. I'll give you a little tip. Try WordFence for SEO security, and you should be good. Maybe a contact form, so you don't have to build a contact form.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I think those are great tips. The more hands-on you could be, the better you're going to be off in the long term. So, anybody out there that's interested in SEO, you maybe they've never done it before, a good place to start would be the web development side, just tinkering around, making layouts, editing some copy. So in 2006, though, what were some of the winning strategies to get websites ranked? I mean, I know it's easier, but like, what was the move back then?
you know those horror stories, I'm sure. Those were the days of whatever you could get out there was probably better than what else somebody else had. I mean, this were the days of still standard um, 480p video. So uh, successful strategies included, um, remember hidden text, all the words that you could cram into a keyword area. Um, you know, if you could, basic stuff like the headers still counted, and you had your title and description, but you had your networks to leverage, backlinks. I guess you call them PBMs now, but you had then lots of networks of blogs that would just drive traffic to other blogs and other paid sites. Um, I never liked doing pay per click. I really, that's one area I neglected and don't have much experience in. So everything mine was whatever I could do for free. I was willing to try at that point. And there was a lot of ways you could do that then. Um, Now I will say one thing that has persisted was you got to present better content than what somebody else had because it didn't really matter the niche as long as you knew your audience and you knew what they wanted to see. Uh, and it had to be very niche. Whatever it is, it always has to be very niche, and that's still true today too. you can't please everybody with one piece of content. So why try, right? The same held true then. So content is always king, but the way you present it, that separates you from your competitors is the other piece. And that's held true since then too. But, we got rid of all the black hat methodologies just by all those nice Google updates between then and now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right?
Right.
There's a lot of debate on, you go to hire people for your SEO team. Would you hire someone with a a history of black hat SEO techniques or not? I'm actually a fan of hiring them with black hat experience, just because I know that they suffered through major traffic losses. You learn from those mistakes, right? And you know, was it a mistake back then? It's arguable, it's debatable, because everyone was having great success buying links, right? That was like the key to success. Back then, meta keywords were still a thing, right? And there's some funny SEO tools still out there that'll ding you for not having meta keywords, even though they haven't been relevant for, a decade. But I would take an SEO that's been in the game for that long, that has tinkered with those, black hat techniques that have now evolved more white hat, just so that way when they are with a client or with a marketing agency or with a CMO, and someone's like, hey, why can't we just buy links on Fiverr or Black Hat World? You're like, here's why. I had a site or 7 sites back in the day, and all of the traffic got washed away in 2012, right? So you've had to evolve in that path. So I think all of that experience, a lot like the golf game, it all comes back to play and build you better for the future, right? So hats off to you for sticking it out. I know there's several people that were SEOs. They were considered good back in the day that completely fell off the face of the earth and switched jobs because they didn't actually know SEO. They just knew how to to build backlinks through intermediaries. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, backlinks. I didn't even touch on that. You're spot on. How many expanding backlinks could you get? And that was where I guess my thriftiness prevented me from too many fatal errors.
Yeah.
So it's good to be thrifty, I guess.
Well, that's kind of the SEO play of the role of an SEO, right? We're kind of like a jack of all trades, and we have to do a lot with less. Just if you compare like an average paid search budget to an average SEO budget, it's usually like 5 to 1, at least 10 to 1. Where that paid search team might get $100,000 a month to spend, and the SEO team might have 5 to 10, right? So we got to do more with less. And I think you feel like it's a chip on the shoulder for every SEO. We all kind of understand that, but it just it's kind of part of the job. But it's interesting, right? Because smaller budget, but way higher ROI, way better ROAS over time. You have experience seeing that?
Why do you think that persists? Because every month we present numbers, and our numbers are an astronomical percentage on ROAS, 5,000% last month for a client. And you present them, and they the response is generally with somebody who is on the fence about SEO. They might say a minor kudos, whereas somebody who really knows SEO, they give great response. And I wonder why there's such. Do they not understand SEO, so then they don't understand the result? Is that what you would say?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination of things, really. I think our job as SEOs is to do our day to day, and that's what a good SEO does. I think the best SEOs are also educators throughout the process. So, making sure that you understand what's important to the client. So, whenever we onboard a client, one of the first things we ask is, what does success look like to you 6 months from now, 12 months from now? Is it traffic? Is it rankings? Is it revenue? The revenue conversation is very tough. The reason a lot of people don't correlate revenue with SEO is because SEO, it's hard to track revenue unless you're like in a niche industry, like, for example, home services that has like a service titan or something like that, where you can actually attribute revenue, or maybe you're using CallRail and you can track it that way with your tracking numbers. But if you're just using GA4, it's really it's a guest based model, where on paid search, it's dollar for dollar. You can see how much dollars you put in versus what you're getting out. So, and they're spending a lot of money on it. So what I see oftentimes in my career is SEO is kind of always near the chopping block, because it's one of the cheaper marketing channels, when a CMO looks at a line item spreadsheet, and they're like, okay, so SEO is 1% of our total marketing spend. Like, do we even really need it, right? But if you can show them that it actually drove 27% of our revenue, all of a sudden to a CMO that doesn't care about the tactic itself, they just care about the bottom line. They're the ones that are really going to appreciate it. A business owner can really appreciate that if we present the data in that way. But SEO by default is always on the chopping block because it's a big black box and no one really understands. They know they need it, but they don't know why they need it. So the best SEOs are going to be able to educate those people and saying kind of like, this is why it's so important. This is how it contributes to a lot of other factors. So one of my go tos when I'm talking about SEO is kind of like SEO really is a force multiplier at the end of the day. What I mean by that is, you're talking about upper, mid, and lower funnel on the organic search side. So it's like the whole user search experience. So they might come in through a blog, right? What is it? What is a root canal? And maybe ideally in a perfect world they would convert right there. They would just call the dentist and say, hey, I think I need a root canal, right? But maybe they don't. Maybe their tooth is just kind of hurting. They don't know if it's a cavity or what it is. Maybe we just capture their email and their name. So it's, but at least they're in the CRM now, right? It all started organically. Maybe we get nothing, but at least they came to our site because they came on the blog. Then now the paid search team, now they can retarget. They can use display ads because they got that cookie and that pixel on there. Those are highly transactional ads. It's like, hey, 10% off, $50 off, whatever it might be, to get them to call and schedule an appointment or get the sale. So SEO is really a force multiplier. You have to look at it at a bunch of different angles, and I feel like that's something that a lot of SEOs miss. Right, a lot of SEOs are very, face down in the keyboard. They get a ton of stuff done every single day. They have great results. They don't know how to celebrate those wins and frame it for whoever they're speaking to in that light. They should be as pumped as we are if we're doing our jobs right.
Well said. Force multiplier makes total sense. I like the way you tied it to pay per click. That's creative. Retargeting is smart. And then, celebrating the win, right? That's a challenge for some people, including myself. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of SEOs, we have a lot of pride in our work and we do a good job all the time. So it's like we might not get as amped up as maybe a brand manager might when they see these numbers because we're just like, well, this is what I do, right? Like I build success for your website, and it's like important to remind yourself, hey, this is a good win. Like we started with nothing, and now look at this
Yeah.
traffic, look at these rankings, look at these leads, look at these calls, look at this revenue. It's important to celebrate those things, both individually internalized, but also with your team and your clients.
Well said. Yeah. I don't anticipate AI replicating that process of celebrating the wins along the way. So I could say that's one factor that we have up on AI too,
I totally agree. But speaking of AI,
right?
what do you think about AI in the current landscape of the SEO world? Are they going to take over everyone's jobs? Is it here to stay? Is it going away? How have you kind of implemented it in your day to day?
Uh, do you like AI first off?
I like some things that AI can do. I like it personally, selfishly, for my own job security because AI has wreaked havoc in a lot of websites, and I'm pretty good at identifying and showing people, hey, this is not a good thing, and here's why, and here's where your drop off has happened. So selfishly, I like it. I think it is the future. I don't think I'm nearly as heads down as many people in the space in terms of being at the forefront of everything. But yeah, so I have a mixed opinion on it. I think great SEOs have more job security than they've ever had. I think if you're an SEO that all you do is write title tags and image alt text all day long, I feel like your job probably is not safe. I feel like AI is coming for your jobs.
You had that nice tool for the alt images. I appreciate that. What was the name of that? That was good.
Oh yeah, I have to look it up again. But yeah, there is a plugin that'll help generate image alt text in bulk, so then you kind of have to spot check it, and the ability to detect what the image is very good. So maybe I'll drop a link on the underneath the YouTube video for this.
Yeah, that was handy because I was looking at using it the other night, and 100 plus images, and I'm going to have to spin these out, send them to the dev. He's going to have to waste time doing it. It's a very cool process. Yeah. But no, yeah, to survive on alt images alone would be a tough job. AI though, I do find the use for it with some content production, optimization, I'll say. Um, Tried a few of them. I have a friend who maintained his own LLM version specifically for AI content production to pop things out fast. That was the whole point of it, and get it to pass the AI screening for Google. I think that's a tall order. He's still working on it, and I think that's a tall task. Like you said, a job security for good content, authoritative, niche content will always be there if you can come up with a process that doesn't include AI. Thankfully,
Yeah, and I know like you're a big proponent of SEO Surfer. Talk
yeah.
about that. How what do you why do you think SEO Surfer why do you think SEO Surfer is a great tool, and kind of how do you incorporate it in your day to day work?
Yeah, they I've used them for a few years now with our writers. We work together on projects, and I set the guide and they write our piece. And how that helps specifically, like I've used Jasper, I've used a couple others, but this one's different in that Surfer SEO lets you look into competitors more specifically in semantically related words. So we all have our keyword targets and we all target our competitors, which Surfer allows you to include as well. I just do that research before it gets to Surfer, so I have my targets that I share with our writer and we talk about. But what happens is when you start writing inside Surfer, it gives you on the sidebar a list of keywords specifically to target that you might not have already included that are semantically related to your intent. That and it also gives you a count of how many words you should use, a density count. So it's really nice in that regard. Plus, it also scores you live versus your competitors. So 0 to 100 score that gives you a fairly reliable stat to feel confident about when publishing, that you can present something that is ready to compete. Now, how Google ranks it, are we saying that this content is maybe over optimized? It's possible. Um, might, be problematic down the line. I haven't seen that yet. But this is all, uh, content written by a person, so it passes that test. It's just optimized in a way that it's maybe a little more competitive than you would get just with a writer alone and your target keywords.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you are leveraging an AI tool, but there's still a lot of human intervention in there. It's not like a human generated or it's not an AI generated content that does all the work for you. You're kind of using it. You've done some keyword research before. You start writing in there because the AI technology in there is kind of showing you live how it theoretically could stack up against competitors based off of keyword density, what keywords they're targeting, and then actual word count. So you're at least in the same ballpark as your competitors, and then you can use like again more human intervention to kind of take it a step above.
You got it. I mean, how do you feel about that process?
I love it. I think anything that can make your workflow more efficient is always going to be good. If you were to write 5 articles, how much time do you think that saves you using that versus when back in the day when you didn't have something like that?
Considerable. Just the research learning into the keywords is one thing. That's a given. But it's that second layer of, what is the competitor presenting and what do we have to present in such a way that we can outdo them at what they're already succeeding at.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is the scoring system. I wouldn't treat it as the gospel truth, but feel like it is a good jump off point, right? So, one thing that you see a lot is clients that are paying for a lot of content, and 50% of it doesn't never even gets indexed because Google doesn't think it's helpful. So the fact that there's AI tools there that are scraping the web, they're pulling in the specific URLs for the specific seed or primary keyword so you can kind of already see what's ranking nationally, and then you're just trying to build upon um, a hodgepodge of all of those different articles. I feel like you have a pretty good understanding of what the search intent is supposed to be, and then how you can make it better. The next step would obviously be creating images to match it to add to the
Uh,
content, which AI still, I don't, in my opinion, doesn't do a great job of for most industries. So there's still a human element in there. I've seen a couple of sites that I worked on personally in the last 3 months that simply just adding images to better answer the search intent has caused them go from like losing 80% of the traffic all the way back up to all-time highs just because you're answering search intent better, right? So I love the creativity that you're using with leveraging AI tools, but just as a word of caution, you're still doing a lot of human intervention alongside of it.
and that includes a QA process at the end where I go in and change, some headers. I go in and change, the calls to action at the end. I'll interlink things. I liked your idea, especially for blogs, to have that jump link at the top. That's always a nice feature. You also, I like your idea to have the blog author. I think that helps a ton. So you're prepping that at least, for once, maybe twice, depending on how many authors you had. That was a nice tip.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of hands on there. Yeah.
and for those of you that aren't following what he's saying, Jim and I talked offline before this, so we've been talking for quite some time today. But yeah, just basically, I think to have really good eat, you need to have a relevant blog author. And a lot of times, I'll audit a site. I'm sure you've seen the same, Jim, when you audit a site, and they have either a company name listed as the author, or an SEO agency listed as an author, or no author at all. Or sometimes they have an author at the bottom of the page, but it's not in the metadata and it's not actually crawlable or linkable like an author page should be. So those are just some more tips, right? If you're going to build out an author page, which I think you should, because again, SEO is very theoretical, but you kind of want to replicate who's the best. So if you're looking at the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or ESPN, people that all they do is write for a living and they have really good author bios built out, you should probably be doing it the same way, right? Author, editor, fact checker if relevant. All three of those things are super important. Again, if it makes sense for your industry. So yeah, I think having that author part is super important. And you touched on blogs a little bit, Jim. So let's get into that. What kind of do you think people should still be blogging in 2024, or is blogging dead?
I always love the is it dead uh, analogy or correlation. Of course, blogs are always going to play an important role. You have to answer questions that people have. That's what I try to say is you know, a big part of the job. You can't say that you're going to just rank on service pages. You have to bring people in, inform them about what they don't even know half the time. So they don't even know what to Google to get to the thing you're trying to inform them about sometimes. So that's the challenge, right? How do you inform somebody and then get them to convert to the service that you want them to convert to? So you got to start with the questions that are trending, right? Um, there's always something trending on Google Trends. That's the name of the site. If you're really struggling with something to come up with that'll score, and rank and get you some awareness and conversions, that's a good place to start. I always also used to look at more often, but now it's combined into one tool, thankfully. Like, what are the highest pay per click keywords? Like what's costing the most? I always felt like that was a good place to start. If you don't have access to some of the paid SEO tools, you can go into Google AdWords and get your keywords there to target, because you know that, especially if you're running an affiliate site, you can always count on those words being the ones that people are searching because they cost the most for somebody else to go buy. Um, so you can incorporate, your high value informational keywords that maybe someone else is buying for $60 a click. Plus, you can, you know, maybe pass that traffic along to your service. So it's a double win.
I couldn't say it any better myself. You give me actionable tips like if someone, how do you leverage blogs into your content strategy?
Uh, so we have a lot of clients who are always looking to expand their footprint. locally. And if you have somebody who's not a local business, maybe you're national, it really works very similarly. You're just trying to get that correlation between your service and the end user trying to answer their question. So it goes back to hub and spoke. You have your spoke, which is the service, and then you have your hubs, arms going out. I would now make an analogy, to try and shake hands with the public. How are you introducing yourself to the public? So you're going to have as many handshakes going out there as possible in the form of blog posts to try and go make that connection. Um,
So by
so
what do you mean by that? Is it like internal links or like what does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, okay. So first you have to build the blog to build the internal link that goes back to your service. So once you come up with the question you're going to answer, you write I'm going for to rank well at least 800 words on the blog, um, just to have a chance at ranking really well.
Sure.
And then you start talking about the question that is is the topic at hand, and then you can go into um, describing how this topic can solve your problem. Oh, and by the way, we have that problem solver too. It's right here. Click this link. All of a sudden, they're on your service page with your, SEO optimized layout, which then can pass them through to buy now process or your, contact form where you click to call. So you have a nice funnel built just by producing content on a monthly basis that should be evergreen content in the sense that it's always going to be relevant. It's not a one-time paid fee for a one-time click. It's something that, once you have multiples of these based around each topic or service that you're offering or product, um, you have a foundational support of driving traffic to your products that builds relevance and authority in your niche. So that's exactly what Google's looking to see is that you've talked about these topics. You have a network on your site that encourages people to explore more. And you have that time on page that proves that people are interested in what you're saying.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan of the hub and spoke model as well. It's something that I prescribe to as well. And I think one like real world analogy or something to think about would be Reddit has exploded onto the SEO
Uh,
scene, and it's just taken so many of the number one spots, even when it's arguable that they shouldn't, especially for like medical related search terms. But if you look at Reddit at its core, like what makes it so powerful is because they have multiple threads on almost any question you ask, right? So Reddit does a really good job of building layers and layers and layers of content. So they're not necessarily internally linked to each other, although sometimes a Redditor might comment to another thread that already exists. So there's internal links built like that, but they do a really good job with breadcrumbs, making sure there's internal links to the topical authority. So I think the hub and spoke model is exactly spot on. I think you gave a great actionable tip, which is every blog should should interlink to a relevant product or service. And then I think another step you can take would be making sure that those blogs are actually linked to each other. I'm a fan of something I call the blog category optimizer. So basically, I do an audit of every single blog, and then I give it a primary and a secondary category that establish the links targets, so they're linking to each other as well as upwards to the product or service. So, yeah, definitely a big fan of the hub and spoke, Jim. We're definitely aligned there for sure. Anything else to add to blogs?
I would say we've been experimenting with having a call reel number at the end just to maybe give them something to go immediately.
Yeah.
So if you have an actionable place you want to direct them, you can experiment with a call to action. That would be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether you use CallRail or another sort of call tracking service, it's always nice to have, right? Because someone clicks on that, and you have a separate one for blogs than your non-blog pages. Again, it comes back to what we talked about earlier about proving revenue and leads. So any way you can do that for SEO and really lock down that attribution and the allocation to your channel, the better it's going to be when it comes times to budget season, whether it's an increase retention or winning a client over. potentially. Jim,
Also,
any hot takes that you have? Any predictions for the rest of the year for SEO?
interesting question. We're always going to have a new Google update. I can guarantee that, right? That's a hot take, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, you know what? I have a good one. So I was thinking about quotes last night, and there's a quote from a movie I liked. It was, why would you trust someone, right? And one reason that was discussed in this quote was the fact that they're interested in money, and I can rely on somebody who's interested in money. So you know what motivates them, so you can predict what they're probably going to do next, and get their agreement on doing things in your favor. So that's the essence of the quote. But Google's first interested in money because of the way they present pay-per-click consistently above organic SEO results. Okay, fine. But yesterday, um, there was a report that confirmed that the higher you rank in organic search results, the more likely you're going to appear right underneath those pay-per-click sponsored ads in the new AI um,
Overlay.
overlay. So, right. So now, uh, while you can leverage that fact that Google wants to make money consistently, and it looks like the fact that they need SEO to prove the value of the pay-per-click sponsored links. So I can rely on the fact that they need us, even though they might not like it.
That's so well said, and it's going to be super fascinating to see how this plays out because Google's stock is kind of fluctuating right now, and they've actually taken actionable steps to kind of show they're not in a good place. For many years, the last couple of years, they're talking about how cookies and pixels were going away, but recently they've kind of said we're not going to do that because they couldn't figure out a way to make it more scalable. So I
Yeah,
think what you said is spot on to that. And I think Google also, although they don't like SEOs probably because they definitely prefer paid search, that's what drives their revenue. Without the trust in organic, people will move away from Google to go to somewhere else for paid search too. So they can
yeah.
approach all they want, but at a certain point, they need us as much as we need rankings. So yeah, it's a super interesting thing. It's a great hot take. My hot take from earlier this year was wrong. I didn't think they were going to roll out AI because I didn't think they were going to be ready. So I was wrong on that, but I was also right because they weren't ready. It was an 80% of search
Yeah,
AI overlay was 80%. Now it's down to like I think 13% or something. I think the last number I
yeah.
was quoted.
It's much smaller. Yeah,
So yeah, it's very fascinating. I hope that they give us a little bit more data or some data on how AI overlay impacts the rest of the search results. But yeah, it's a very volatile time for an SEO, but it's kind of what makes our job fun, right?
oh, it's always fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, Jim.
Uh,
As we're wrapping up here, any plugs? Praxis. How can people find you? How they contact you? What's the best way to get in touch?
contact adleverage.com. My the reason I stopped with Praxis was because I realized I couldn't do everything myself, right? Where it's too much to bring in a client, have them become a partner, work with them to succeed beyond just a basic website. You know, um, when you need to take that next step, you have to work with a team, and I'm really happy that I have you to work with, and a really a great guy in AP. Andrew Pelosi is the founder of Ad Leverage, and we have a really smart team. So I'm really thankful that I can refer any and all people who are interested in growing their business back to Ad Leverage.
Awesome. Are you on LinkedIn, Jim? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Jim Liberi on LinkedIn. I can give you a link, but I look forward to maybe publishing this around social media. I have a Twitter or X account now. Um, So I'm friends with you on there. I think you have that one. And I don't know. Are you on any social media?
I'm just on LinkedIn really, and I do have an X account. I don't really post much, but
Yeah.
it's fun to just X was interesting, right? When Elon bought it, everyone's like, "It's gonna fail. It's gonna fail. It's gonna fail." I was waiting for the,
Oh,
I was waiting for the doomsday crash, and it never really happened. Seems like it's never really down, and so that was interesting to follow along on. I didn't pay for the subscription model or anything. I don't use it enough, but yeah, X is a great resource for SEOs. There's a lot of smart influencers on there and always posting really interesting case studies, and it's a great place to keep up with news. Sometimes I feel like LinkedIn used to be the place, but now I feel like everyone is kind of just self promoting a little too much. Where X people are actually kind of still talking about the day to day grind and what's working, what's not. There's some really good debates on there. So yeah, not a big social media guy personally, but I do try to follow along whenever I can.
yeah, well said. Much more conversational next. Yeah,
Awesome, Jim. Well, thanks so much for the time. Thanks for coming on and sharing your insights.
uh,
We'll talk soon.
you're awesome, Shane. Thank you.